I am going to talk about today is the book is really famous around the world. Ikigai is about the Japanese philosophy, which is actually practiced in a specific part of Japan, Okinawa. This philosophy is really amazing. Ikigai is not written by a Japanese. People from Spain went to Japan, and the authors understand the culture of those people, but they understood it from the lens of a Western person, a Western individual. What I later understand is, like everyone in Japan, these people suffer every kind of suffering that the world has to give. But what if we Africans try what we have in here? If you can package it properly, people can understand you better. Can we start today? Hey everyone, welcome to Abraham's Global Insights, the podcast where we dive deep into powerful ideas, global perspectives, and transformative insights that shape our world. I'm truly grateful that you're here, and I appreciate you investing your time in learning and growing. Whether you're driving to work, unwinding at home, hitting the gym, or just taking a moment for yourself, this is your space to gain new perspectives and challenge the way you see the world. I bring you insights from books, podcasts, interviews, and in-studio conversations with incredible guests, so there is always something new to learn. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now let's dive in. So about a week ago, I had a meeting with a friend. I wanted to tell him that we started a new podcast and I want him to give me a feedback after watching a video or two. And we happened to talk about other books, and this book that I am going to talk about today is a book that we talked about on that specific day. The book is called Ikigai. I later learned that it's a very famous one, and there is a mantra all over the social media about the principle of Ikigai inside it. And I understand that the book is really famous around the world, but it's not about some specific issue that we dealt with before or I know about before, but I heard of different areas of the book or what it covers. So Ikigai is about a philosophy, a Japanese philosophy, which is actually practiced in a specific part of Japan called Okinawa. So this philosophy is really amazing. It has different aspects of it inside, and it's particularly about the people that are living in the island that is called Okinawa. It's not about the whole of Japan. So I learned later that people from Spain went to Japan and tried to understand how the Japanese people are living, and they wanted to write a book about how these people are living. All in all, the book is about understanding what you love at an individual level and being really good at it, good at what you love, and after that, making sure that you make money out of it after knowing or after identifying that the world needs what you have. So this is the whole principle of Ikigai. So I tried to find the book, but I was not able to find the book immediately. It took me a while, and I asked around. I called friends and people that I know, and I found the book later and tried to read the whole book and understand the whole thing was in it. And the principle of Ikigai is really mesmerizing, really powerful, potent ideas, valid principles, really amazing notions are inside it. But what I was understanding is, the whole time I was reading the book, I was understanding, or I was feeling like I'm reading something from the West, maybe from the US, maybe from England, one of those self-help books that gives you, within a diagram, the principle of life and how you can act about it and how you cannot act about certain part of life or another part of life. So I was really amazed at how these individuals that that were not originals from Japan went to Japan and try to understand the culture of the people of Okinawa, a specific island in Japan, and wrote a book about these people and packaged it and branded the whole book and sold it to the world. What I'm coming from and what I'm trying to tell you, I'll share with you, is the fact that how I understand about Ikigai and what I learned now about the whole concept of Ikigai is not actually similar to what is captured within the book. There are elements of it, but the whole feeling I had was, reading the book, the whole feeling I had was that life is perfect. These people are living hundreds of years and they're living healthy. They're eating healthy, they're exercising, they're not retiring, they're working every time because they have their Ikigai, the meaning of their life. So these individuals, these people that are living in this specific island are people who have everything figured out in life. That was not really something that I could understand or I could comprehend at the time, because we have problem everywhere. We have challenge. We have difficulties. Circumstances are not always smooth. You don't get to have this perfect life in this world. So I try to see some of the things and research through how these people are living in there and try to understand the actual living standard of these people in Japan. And what I learned later is what is captured actually in the book Ikigai and how these people are living is somehow similar, but not the same. Okinawa is an island that is actually filled with people living a different kind of life, which seems silent, which seems really adorable, but not. They suffer the same way like the other people in Japan suffer. For example, people in Japan suffer from overwork, stress. They have all kind of problems that the Japanese people have. But what I later understand is these people who went from the West, which is Spain, and try to understand the culture of other people living in the eastern part of the world, which is Japan, and they have their fantasies about that culture. They have a background information, a background knowledge about how these Eastern philosophies are dominating the world, or how many people in the world aspire to have that kind of life. And they want to depict that life and package it in a way that people in the rest of the world wants to see or wants to read in that way and sell it to the world. That's what they did. So the reason I said I felt like I was reading something from the West, maybe from the US, a kind of motivational or self-help book, is Ikigai is not written by a Japanese or an individual who was born in Japan, who understands the culture and who understands the nuances within the culture, specifically of Ikigai. They can actually advocate for living a healthy life with eating a different kind of eating style. It could be how they treat life or how they exercise every day. This is actually packaged or written within the book in a different part of the book. I understand how these people, the authors, understand the culture of those people, but they understood it from the lens of a Western person, a Western individual. I learned later, like everyone in Japan, these people suffer every kind of suffering that the world has to give. So what I came to realize is, if you package something and make it feel or make it sound like it's perfect and sell it to others, it could have an impact. Is that morally okay, morally correct to do that? Maybe not. But can we have a culture, or can we have an ideal? It could be within Africa or within Ethiopia, an ideal that we cherish, that we love, that we aspire for other people to know about, aspire for other people to come and learn and share with, can we package it in a way that these authors in Ikigai packaged the whole concept and philosophy of Ikigai and sold it to the West, sold it to the world? I was thinking about, for example, Harambe. It is a concept from Kenya. It's about coming together, working, winning hardship by coming together, and trying to alleviate problems by collaborating. Or Ubuntu from South Africa. It's a philosophy of understanding oneself through the lens or through the being of the others. I am because we are. We have these philosophies. We have these ideals within the continent. I try to see the similarities and the differences between Ikigai and what we have in Africa, the likes of Ubuntu or Harambe or ideals in Ethiopia, for example, tenastali. It's a similar kind of thing. When you say tenastali in Ethiopia, you are wishing that person, the person that you are communicating with, a health that is full in its form, mentally, emotionally, physically. It's a big thing to sell, a big thing to package. I underlined there is a moral aspect of these things. I know that I'm not sanctimonious to say these words and say that anything of the sort should not be sold or should not be packaged in a way that Ikigai is packaged and branded in a way that Ikigai is branded and sold to the rest of the world. But we have it. What if an African, what if somebody, an individual from Kenya or an individual from South Africa or a person from Ethiopia tries to understand what tenastali is or Ubuntu is or Harambe is? And this time around, we have social media. We have every kind of digital media that we want that can enable us to sell our ideals, our philosophies. What if we attempt that road? Would it be immoral? Would it be bad? Would it not really account to, or would it not come to the realization, or would an African come to the realization that they have this thing, and when they receive it, wouldn't they realize that this is a big thing? I don't know. But I felt like individuals going to the other part of the world and trying to understand the culture or the ideal of the people that they're living in for the time being, and try to capture not the nuances of the whole philosophy, the whole ideal, but whatever they can grab and write and package it and make it famous around the world. Ikigai is a mantra now. I was trying to go through the social media, the feeds of different individuals. It is around Facebook, it is on Instagram, it is everywhere. When people want to motivate you, when people want to tell you that you have a skill, you have a passion, work on it, and try to package it in a way that you can sell it to others, they tell you about Ikigai. From the very outset, it was, I don't believe that it was a famous ideal that it is today, but it's really famous now. It is sold around the world, and now everybody feels some kind of way to talk about Ikigai. Like, there are concepts that are raised in the book apart from the whole notion of the intersection of understanding what you love and try to know what your passion is, and after that, knowing that if the world wants it or not, then sell it to the world. That is really fancy, but the book has other things too. I try to see other things that are contained in the book, and most of these things are about philosophies as to how individuals should live. For example, when you have a plate, when you have a food, eat 80% of the food. The rest 20 should be left because you don't need to fill yourself with all kind of things that you got. And it says you need to have a different portion of food so that your body can be healthy. It's a good thing. And you need to realize the state of flow when you work. And the state of flow, being in the state of flow is something that tells you that you have Ikigai or you are in that state. It's a good thing. Walking is a very good thing, it says. Or exercising, a very slow kind of exercise is a very good thing, it says. It's all right. It is universal. It is all right. In no part of the world, a person can actually oppose the idea of having to eat a proper amount of food, having to work out, having to actually have a friendship. It also talks about having a friend, having a community, and being in that community, influencing each other, and actually you can use it as a therapy as well. It's a very good thing. They exercise it in Okinawa, in Japan. And it's indicated in the book that these people are practicing all these things. But something is fishy, or something is really conventional. This is what I was reading in different other books. This is how the West is packaging these self-help books and selling it to the other part of the world. I'm so happy for the Japanese people that the concepts of philosophies like Kaizen, philosophies like Ikigai, and the other philosophies are really famous around the world. I have my theories, I have my understandings that Japan is politically somehow related to the West, even though it has its own culture, its own identity. Economically, what Japan emulates is what the West is doing in terms of technology, in terms of other things. So these individuals from Spain, which is in Europe, going to Japan and writing a book about a certain ideal, that's a very nice thing to do. Good for them. But what if we Africans try what we have in here? We have all these things. You can blame me for saying these things, and you can have arguments like, what we have is oral tradition. We didn't write about Ubuntu maybe. The social media is not actually overwhelmed with the concepts and the ideals of Ubuntu or the contents of Ubuntu or Enastali or maybe Harambe. Can we start today? Can Africans, brothers and sisters from different African countries, can they bring something that they can package, brand, sell it to the rest of the world so that the rest of the world can benefit? I was really thinking about this kind of things. Call me crazy or call me whatever you want to call me, but I think it's practical. Because now we have the capabilities and we have the support of the social media. We don't need to have any kind of other thing we like it if Harvard, law review of Harvard, whatever review, takes an interest in one of these notions or these ideals and writes about it. And if we can collaborate with one of these big giant media houses or universities from the West, it could expedite the process. That would be very good. A huge deal, actually. But we can start on our own. We have individuals who are learned, who are educated, who have this capacity to actually make what is Africa's, what is the continent's values, ideals, package it, brand it, and give it to the rest of the world. maybe then the rest of the world can understand what we aspire to achieve, where we are going in life, what our actual ideal is, not what they see or what they hear from their own media. Maybe we can have the opportunity to sit down, son, and explain to the rest of the world that we have the potential. It's not only the minerals, it's not only the landscapes, or it's not only the safaris that we have within Africa. We have these ideals that says, come together. My essence, my importance, my significance is because you're there. Because you are alive. We're connected. Can we then consider that these kind of things can go and be a leadership course or something along the lines of a training material, a book, a podcast, a YouTube video? Maybe we can alleviate some of our problems. We can address some of our problems. At least the part of the misunderstanding we have with the rest of the world, and the part of the stereotype that the rest of the world has for Africa, that we are a continent that is filled with some kind of animals, and we are struggling to survive because we're not building cities that are as glamorous as the cities in the West, which is not true. We have all these things, but we are still trying. So this is my realization, my understanding that African brothers and sisters can take an assignment of actually understanding the ideals they have. These ideals can be packaged, branded, and help ourselves with them and actually sell them or give them to the rest of the world so that we can have this harmony, understanding, cohesion. Because what we have been receiving from the West, I don't have any hate for all those things that are coming from the West. I have only appreciation and gratitude because I learned a lot. But this time around, what we have needs to be told. What Africa has needs to be actually exposed to the rest of the world. So this is an assignment that we Africans, the sons and daughters of Africa, we have this responsibility. I know that it's been tried. I came across some technology or some kind of software that says Ubuntu or Harambe is here and there, and Asteling is somewhere in Ethiopia. People are at least using it. But that's not what we're talking about. It's about the public perception that other people from the other part of the world will have about us when we package it in a certain way and make sure that it is really addressed to or saying to the people that needs to know about Africa and achieve its goals. We have an assignment. The assignment is about actually telling the rest of the world what Africa is capable of. That Africa is not a continent that started just after the end of colonization. That Africa is not only what the West created it to be after colonization. Now we had ancestors. Those ancestors parted actually wisdom. They parted wisdom. That wisdom actually kept us together. That wisdom actually made us who we are together today as Africa. For example, the ideal of Ubuntu or the ideal of Harambe both leaders of these countries, Nelson Mandela from South Africa for Ubuntu and Jomo Kenyatta for Harambee, used these ideals to create harmony, to create peace in those two respective countries. We have this kind of ideals. Let's come together, think of something, and let's start today. Because the tool was in our reach. Just a phone away. Let's start that campaign and make the rest of the world understand what we have. I'm not really lunatic in thinking that, yeah, we can address this issue and the perception of the rest of the world will be changed after a week or a month or a year, because we'll be packaging this and telling them all kind of things that we have apart from what they understand. No, that's not what I'm thinking. But the journey has to start today. We should start today, and we'll see the result tomorrow. It could take us 10 years, 15 years. But we have the advantage. We have the opportunities, the possibilities within our reach to start today. The other thing, at the end, I want to reflect on what Ikigai has, and actually, I don't believe the authors of the book actually grabbed the nuanced ideal or philosophy of Ikigai, the sophistication of it. It is oversimplified. It is oversimplified because no people in the world, unless you're using that for commercial purposes, unless you are romanticizing or fantasizing all kind of things in there, no people in the world live like that. Centenarians, people living more than 100 years and having all things coming together, and they're in harmony with nature, with their body, with their work. I don't think that is what is happening in that part of Japan, in that part of the world. No hate towards those people, no hate towards Japanese or Okinawans. But I don't believe that's the correct depiction of the life of those individuals living in there. Maybe because how they eat, maybe because how they were taught to eat, to work, to exercise. Because of the background they have, they can have a certain kind of lifestyle. It could be similar to what is written in Ikigai, but unless it's for packaging purposes, unless these authors want to sell that, capitalize on selling that, it cannot be that true. So we can start in Africa, we can package what we have, and we can at least know what we are and what we're doing, and create that harmony. I just want to say those things not because I didn't find the book to be helpful. The book was really helpful. It taught me that whatever you have, it could be a value or a lifestyle. If you can package it properly, people can understand you better. Then that can have an effect, the effect of giving you the benefit of the doubt if anything happens. That's just a soft power for the individuals living in there. In the eyes of the Western world, or in the eyes of the world that read the book Ikigai, it is actually translated into different languages. So anyone who read that book wouldn't think that the Japanese people and the particular people living in the island called Okinawa are bad people, because what is saying to those particular people reading this book is really positive, really inspiring, motivating. So it plays at a macro level. When you think about it at a macro level, it plays a soft power role. How we are portrayed by the rest of the world, and how even leaders of the rest of the world thinks of Africa or the continent as a whole can be impacted if we can work on this kind of things. I just want to say those words and share my understanding of the book Ikigai with you today. And going forward, I hope we'll be collaborating and working on different aspects of life that we have and the challenge that we face. Together, we can solve our problems. If it doesn't happen in our generation today, our children, the children of our children will have a better Africa, a better continent, a continent that they're proud of, a continent that they call a motherland or a mother continent. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are watching this episode of the podcast, please subscribe. Please leave your comment. We can have further discussions about this kind of issues, about our continent, about a specific country within the continent. It could be or something that that needs addressing, that needs correcting within the continent. And we can discuss about those issues. We can create a community. My pain can be felt by you, and your pain can be felt by me, and we can address it that way. I raise books. I talk about books in this podcast. I talk about other podcasts from around the world, interviews. I bring guests to talk about pertinent issues, relevant issues for the continent or for the globe, for the world. So going forward, if you subscribe to the channel, we can have these conversations. Thank you for watching for today. Bye-bye.